Hey there, knowledge seekers. This is your ultimate destination for discovering the past, understanding the present, and imagining the future. Every video here is a window into a world of wonder, so let your curiosity guide you. Now we explain Julius Caesar, the man who changed Rome forever.
Julius Caesar stands as one of the most iconic and transformative figures in the history of Rome, and indeed in the entire history of human civilization. His name has become synonymous with power, ambition, and political genius. Born on July 12th or 13th, 100 BCE, into the ancient patrician family of the Julii, Gaius Julius Caesar's journey from a young nobleman to the dictator of Rome is one of the most fascinating stories in history. The world that Caesar entered was a turbulent one, filled with political chaos, civil wars, and social unrest. Yet it was this chaos that would provide him the stage to demonstrate his extraordinary talents in leadership, strategy, and governance. His early life, military rise, and political career would shape not only the destiny of Rome, but also set in motion the transformation from a republic to an empire. Caesar's family claimed descent from Iulus, the supposed son of Aeneas, a Trojan hero who was himself the son of the goddess Venus, according to Roman mythology. This divine lineage was an important part of Roman aristocratic identity, and Caesar would later use this ancestral myth to strengthen his political image. Although his family was of patrician heritage, the Julii were not particularly wealthy or influential at the time of Caesar's birth. Rome in the 1st century BCE was a republic in name, but plagued by corruption and factionalism. The Senate was dominated by the aristocratic optimates, who sought to preserve their privileges, while the populares were politicians who appealed to the common people for support. These divisions would shape the entire course of Caesar's career, as he would rise as a champion of the populares and challenge the entrenched power of the Senate. As a young man, Caesar's early experiences were marked by danger and ambition. At the age of 16, his father died suddenly, leaving him as the head of the family. Around this time, Caesar became the priest of Jupiter, known as the Flamen Dialis, a role that required him to marry Cornelia, the daughter of Lucius Cornelius Cinna, a prominent leader of the Populares faction. This alliance connected Caesar to the political enemies of the dictator Sulla, who represented the conservative optimates. When Sulla seized power in 82 BCE after a brutal civil war, he ordered Caesar to divorce Cornelia as punishment for his association with the opposition. Caesar refused, demonstrating remarkable courage for a young man barely in his 20s. This defiance forced him to flee Rome and live in hiding, constantly on the move to escape Sulla's soldiers. His life was spared only after his family and friends intervened, and Sulla, reportedly predicting Caesar's future greatness, reluctantly granted him a pardon, saying that in Caesar there were many Mariuses, a warning that he would one day challenge the old order. After Sulla's death, Caesar returned to Rome and began his formal career in public service. His early career combined political ambition with military adventure. He joined the army and served in Asia Minor under Marcus Minucius Thermus and later in Cilicia. During his time in the East, Caesar demonstrated extraordinary bravery and leadership. In one notable episode, while traveling across the Aegean Sea, he was captured by Cilician pirates. Instead of succumbing to fear, Caesar treated his captors with arrogance and humor. He told them that he would soon have them crucified, and even demanded that they raise his ransom because he believed he was worth more than they had asked for. Once the ransom was paid and he was released, Caesar quickly raised a fleet, pursued the pirates, captured them, and fulfilled his promise by crucifying them, though he mercifully ordered their throats to be cut before their execution. This episode showcased not only Caesar's courage and decisiveness, but also his sense of justice and flair for drama, qualities that would define his later political and military life.
Upon his return to Rome, Caesar's reputation as a man of daring and charisma grew. He studied rhetoric under the famous orator Apollonius Milon of Rhodes, honing the eloquence that would make him one of the greatest speakers in Roman history. His oratory skills allowed him to win over both the public and the Senate, and he quickly rose through the cursus honorum, the traditional ladder of political offices in Rome. His early offices included quaestor, a financial administrator, and later aedile, responsible for public buildings and games. As aedile, Caesar gained immense popularity by organizing extravagant public spectacles and gladiatorial games, often spending lavishly beyond his means. His debts grew enormous, but they also bought him public favor, and in Rome, popularity often translated into political power. One of Caesar's most daring moves during this period was the public restoration of the statues of Marius, his uncle by marriage, which had been removed by Sulla. This act was a direct political statement against the optimates and aligned him firmly with the populares. It was a dangerous but calculated risk, as it placed him in opposition to the Senate's conservative elite while winning the loyalty of the masses. His strategy of appealing directly to the people rather than the aristocracy would become a cornerstone of his political philosophy. In 63 BCE, Caesar's growing influence was recognized when he was elected Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of Rome, a position that gave him both religious authority and immense prestige. The election was highly competitive, and Caesar's victory shocked many in the Senate, as he was still relatively young and deeply in debt. It was rumored that he told his mother before the vote that he would return home either as Pontifex Maximus or not at all, a testament to his ambition and determination. His new role further expanded his base of support, as he now held one of the most revered titles in Rome. Around this time, Rome was experiencing political turmoil and social inequality. The Senate was losing credibility, corruption was rampant, and the gap between the rich and the poor was widening. Caesar's populist message resonated strongly with the common citizens. He positioned himself as a reformer who sought to address the grievances of the people, improve the administration of justice, and bring stability to a republic that was rapidly crumbling under internal strife. Caesar's rise to prominence continued as he served as praetor and later as governor of Hispania Ulterior, modern Spain, in 61 BCE. His governorship was a turning point in his career. In Spain, Caesar displayed remarkable administrative and military ability. He reorganized the province, reduced corruption, and launched successful military campaigns against rebellious tribes, earning both wealth and the loyalty of his troops. It was in Spain that he began to see the potential of military power as a means to political dominance. His victories brought him the respect of his soldiers, who admired his courage and leadership. As Caesar shared their hardships, marched alongside them, and rewarded them generously.
By the time he returned to Rome, Caesar had gained enough wealth to pay off much of his debt and enough prestige to seek the highest offices. However, he faced strong opposition from the Senate, which feared his growing influence. Recognizing that he needed powerful allies, Caesar formed a political alliance in 60 BCE with two of the most influential men in Rome, Pompey the Great, a celebrated general, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome. This informal coalition became known as the First Triumvirate. Together, they agreed to support each other's ambitions and bypass the Senate's authority to control the Roman state. Caesar secured the consulship for 59 BCE, the highest elected office in the Republic, marking his arrival at the pinnacle of political power. As consul, Caesar demonstrated his brilliance as both a politician and a manipulator of public opinion. He pushed through laws to distribute land to veterans and the poor, despite fierce resistance from the Senate. He used his oratory to turn the people against his opponents, and his alliance with Pompey and Crassus ensured that any opposition could be neutralized. Yet his methods also sowed the seeds of future conflict, as his disregard for traditional senatorial authority deepened the divisions within Rome's political system. At the end of his consulship, Caesar arranged for himself to be appointed governor of Cisalpine Gaul, Transalpine Gaul, and Illyricum for 5 years, later extended to 10. This would prove to be a masterstroke, as his command in Gaul provided him with the opportunity to build an army loyal to him personally rather than to the Roman state. His campaigns in Gaul would not only bring him immense wealth and military glory, but also set the stage for his eventual confrontation with the Senate and the transformation of Rome itself.
The early life and political ascent of Julius Caesar illustrate the extraordinary combination of ambition, intelligence, and charisma that made him one of history's greatest figures. From a young man defying a dictator to a rising statesman capturing the hearts of the Roman people, Caesar demonstrated an uncanny ability to adapt to circumstances, to win loyalty, and to seize every opportunity. His path was not merely one of luck or inheritance, but of strategic brilliance and relentless determination. The stage was now set for his most famous chapter, the conquest of Gaul and the rise of a man who would soon become the master of Rome.
When Julius Caesar took command of his provinces in Gaul and Illyricum in 58 BCE, few in Rome could have imagined that this appointment would change the destiny of the Republic forever. What began as a standard governorship became one of the most brilliant and brutal military campaigns in world history. For nearly a decade, Caesar would wage war across vast territories, stretching from the Mediterranean to the English Channel and the Rhine. His victories would bring unprecedented wealth and glory, and at the same time, his growing power would terrify the Senate and turn his allies into enemies. The Gallic Wars transformed Caesar from a skilled politician into a legendary general whose name would echo through centuries. At the time of his arrival in Gaul, Roman control was limited to the southern region known as Transalpine Gaul, but the rest of the territory was divided among numerous tribes who often fought one another. Caesar quickly saw an opportunity. By intervening in local disputes, he could present his conquests as defensive actions taken in the interest of Rome, while in truth expanding his personal command. His first campaign came against the Helvetii, a migratory tribe attempting to move through Roman territory. With remarkable speed, Caesar raised legions, built fortifications, and confronted the Helvetii near the Saône River. His disciplined troops crushed them decisively. He then turned his attention northward to Ariovistus, a Germanic chieftain who had crossed the Rhine and threatened Roman allies. At the Battle of Vosges, Caesar's legions once again triumphed, driving the Germans back across the river and securing his reputation as a commander of genius. Over the next several years, Caesar continued his campaigns with relentless energy. Each victory extended Rome's borders and his own fame. His commentaries, De Bello Gallico, written in his own clear, direct Latin prose, describe these wars in a style that was both factual and self-glorifying. They served as masterful propaganda, allowing people in Rome to follow his victories and admire his leadership. Through these writings, he crafted an image of himself as the heroic defender of Roman civilization against barbarism, while subtly reminding readers of his mercy, intelligence, and divine favor. One of the most dramatic episodes of the Gallic Wars came in 55 BCE when Caesar decided to cross the Rhine River into Germania. This bold move was both a military and symbolic act. Instead of relying on boats, Caesar ordered the construction of a massive timber bridge that spanned the river in only 10 days. After marching his legions across, he remained on the German side just long enough to demonstrate Roman power, then withdrew and destroyed the bridge. The gesture proclaimed to the world that no natural boundary could stop Rome under his command. Later that same year, Caesar undertook another unprecedented venture by crossing the English Channel and leading an expedition into Britain. Although the expedition was brief and achieved little permanent conquest, it astonished both allies and enemies, proving that Caesar's ambitions were limitless.
Throughout the Gallic campaigns, Caesar demonstrated not only military skill, but also deep understanding of logistics, engineering, and human psychology. His soldiers adored him because he shared their hardships, marching on foot beside them, eating the same food, and addressing them as comrades. His leadership style was personal and charismatic. He rewarded bravery lavishly and forgave mistakes easily. When morale was low, he would speak to his troops directly, inspiring them with his unshakable confidence. He was not merely a general commanding from a distance. He was a leader who understood every detail of warfare, from the construction of siege works to the arrangement of camps. The loyalty he cultivated would later prove crucial in his struggle for political power. The greatest challenge of Caesar's Gallic campaigns came in 52 BCE, with the uprising of Vercingetorix, the charismatic leader of the Arverni tribe. Tired of Roman domination, Vercingetorix succeeded in uniting many Gallic tribes in a revolt. His strategy was to avoid direct confrontation, using scorched earth tactics to deprive the Romans of supplies. For the first time, Caesar found himself facing a formidable opponent who understood both the terrain and the psychology of war. The campaign reached its climax at the fortress of Alesia. There, Vercingetorix and his forces were besieged by Caesar's legions. In a feat of engineering unmatched in antiquity, Caesar ordered the construction of 2 lines of fortifications, one facing inward to contain the Gauls, and another facing outward to repel relieving forces. When a massive Gallic relief army arrived, Caesar's troops fought heroically on 2 fronts. After fierce battles, the Romans prevailed, and Vercingetorix surrendered. His defeat marked the end of organized resistance in Gaul and the final triumph of Caesar's conquest. The victory at Alesia had enormous consequences. Rome gained a vast new province, rich in resources, and Caesar returned as the most celebrated man in the empire. Yet success came at a cost. The Senate grew alarmed by his rising power. His old allies began to drift away. Crassus was killed in 53 BCE during a disastrous campaign against the Parthians, while Pompey, once his friend, turned toward the Senate's side. Pompey had married Caesar's daughter Julia, a bond that had kept their alliance strong, but her death in childbirth severed that connection. As Caesar's term in Gaul approached its end, his enemies in Rome demanded that he disband his army and return as a private citizen to face charges of corruption and abuse of power. To obey would mean ruin. To resist would mean civil war.
In the early phase of the conflict, Caesar moved swiftly and efficiently. He secured the Italian peninsula with minimal bloodshed, then turned his attention to Spain, where Pompey's forces were concentrated. At the Battle of Ilerda, he displayed remarkable strategic finesse, surrounding and forcing the surrender of Pompeian legions without unnecessary slaughter. Returning to Rome, he assumed control of the government but refrained from purges or prescriptions, preferring clemency to vengeance. This policy of mercy, clementia Caesaris, became a hallmark of his rule and a political tool that won him admiration, even among former enemies. The decisive confrontation with Pompey came in 48 BCE at Pharsalus in Greece. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Caesar's disciplined troops prevailed through superior tactics and leadership. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was treacherously murdered by local officials seeking to win Caesar's favor. When Caesar arrived in Alexandria and was presented with Pompey's severed head, he reportedly wept, not only at the death of his rival, but also at the end of an era. Yet his involvement in Egypt led to one of the most famous episodes of his life, his meeting with Queen Cleopatra VII. Cleopatra was young, intelligent, and ambitious. Their alliance, both political and romantic, would have lasting consequences. Caesar supported her claim to the throne against her brother Ptolemy XIII, and together they defeated opposing forces in the Alexandrian War. Cleopatra's charm and wit captivated Caesar, and she bore him a son, Caesarion. His time in Egypt displayed not only his military skill, but also his fascination with culture, science, and governance. He admired Egypt's wealth and learning, and envisioned integrating it more closely with Rome's world system. After securing Egypt, Caesar continued his campaigns, defeating the remnants of Pompeian forces in Asia Minor at the swift Battle of Zela in 47 BCE. His concise message to the Senate, Veni, Vidi, Vici, I came, I saw, I conquered, summed up his efficiency and confidence. He then turned to Africa and Spain, crushing the remaining opposition at Thapsus and Munda. By 45 BCE, all resistance was gone. Caesar returned to Rome as the undisputed master of the Roman world. The aftermath of the Civil War marked the beginning of a new phase in Caesar's life, the transformation from conqueror to ruler. The republic he returned to was broken. The Senate was weakened, the economy strained, and the people weary of endless war.
Caesar's challenge was not merely to wield power, but to rebuild Rome. He accepted the title of dictator, first for a limited term, then for life, but he sought to use his authority for reform rather than vengeance. His policy of mercy, Clementia Caesaris, became a hallmark of his rule, and a political tool that won him admiration even among former enemies. Caesar's reforms were sweeping and visionary. He reorganized the calendar, introducing the Julian calendar, which corrected the errors of the old Roman lunar system and established the 365-day year still used in modified form today. He expanded the Senate to include representatives from the provinces, integrating conquered peoples into Roman governance. He passed laws to curb corruption, reduce debt, and provide land for veterans and the poor. He launched grand building projects, draining marshes, constructing new temples, and planning a vast library. His vision of Rome was one of unity and strength, an empire built on efficiency rather than aristocratic privilege.
Yet his growing power aroused fear and resentment. Many senators viewed his reforms as an erosion of republican liberty. His acceptance of honors such as dictator for life and his image appearing on coins suggested a move toward monarchy, something Romans traditionally despised. Whispers spread that Caesar intended to make himself king. Whether he truly desired a crown is uncertain, but his behavior, wearing a laurel wreath constantly, accepting divine titles, and sitting on a golden chair, gave his enemies the evidence they needed to accuse him of tyranny. In the final months of his life, Caesar's position was paradoxical. He possessed absolute power but lacked the trust of the political elite. His generosity and clemency had earned him the loyalty of soldiers and commoners, yet those very qualities convinced aristocrats that he was dismantling the traditions that had defined Rome for centuries. Plots began to form among senators who believed that by killing him, they would restore the republic. Among them were men he considered friends, including Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus. As 44 BCE dawned, Caesar prepared for a grand campaign against the Parthians, hoping to extend Rome's frontiers even further east. He had achieved everything a Roman could dream of: military glory, political supremacy, and a place in history. Yet beneath the surface, tension brewed within the halls of power. The Senate feared what he represented: the end of the old republic and the birth of something new and uncertain. After his return from the campaigns in Spain and the consolidation of power over the Roman world, Julius Caesar faced a new challenge: governing an empire while preserving the appearance of republican traditions. The Senate, once the dominant political body, had been weakened by civil war, and many senators feared Caesar's authority. Yet he approached his rule with a combination of pragmatism, intelligence, and vision that few leaders in history have matched. He aimed not merely to wield power, but to reform the political, social, and economic systems of Rome to create stability, prosperity, and lasting influence. Caesar's dictatorship, formally begun in 46 BCE and later declared for life in 44 BCE, represented a profound transformation in Roman politics. Unlike previous dictators who were appointed for temporary crises, Caesar's rule was continuous, giving him unprecedented authority. Yet he did not govern by arbitrary decree alone. He implemented extensive reforms designed to modernize the republic while addressing pressing social issues. One of his most enduring contributions was the reorganization of the calendar, creating the Julian calendar, a solar-based system with a 365-day year and a leap year every 4 years. This reform corrected the inaccuracies of the Roman lunar calendar and established a structure for measuring time that continues to influence modern calendars. Beyond administrative measures, Caesar enacted far-reaching economic and social reforms. He passed laws to relieve debt, which had been a chronic problem for both urban and rural citizens. He regulated grain distribution, ensuring that the poor had access to affordable food, and provided land for veterans returning from his campaigns, integrating them into Roman society and stabilizing potentially volatile regions. He also extended citizenship to many people in the provinces, fostering loyalty and strengthening Rome's identity as an inclusive empire. By reforming the Senate and increasing its membership to include representatives from newly conquered territories, Caesar sought to create a broader base of political participation while consolidating his own control. These reforms demonstrated a visionary approach. Caesar was not merely a conqueror, but a statesman seeking to create a lasting legacy. Caesar's personality and leadership style played a critical role in sustaining his authority. He cultivated loyalty through generosity, fairness, and charisma. Soldiers adored him because he shared their hardships, eating, marching, and fighting alongside them. Citizens admired him for his clemency and public spectacles, including games, gladiatorial contests, and lavish festivals. Scholars, poets, and philosophers were drawn to his court, and intellectuals admired his wit, eloquence, and patronage of the arts. Unlike many rulers who relied solely on fear or force, Caesar combined respect, admiration, and careful calculation to maintain power. His presence inspired both devotion and awe, ensuring that his rule, though controversial, was accepted by many in Rome.
Yet, despite his achievements, opposition to Caesar was growing among Rome's traditional aristocracy. Many senators, especially those who had aligned with the optimates faction, feared that Caesar's concentration of power threatened the republic itself. To them, he represented a new monarchy in all but name. Rumors circulated that he intended to crown himself king, a symbol anathema to Roman republican values. His public appearances, wearing a laurel wreath, accepting honors, and sitting on a golden throne fueled suspicions. Even though Caesar may not have desired absolute kingship in the traditional sense, his enemies interpreted his actions as proof of tyrannical ambition. This fear culminated in a conspiracy led by prominent senators, including Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus. Brutus held personal significance in this plot, as he was both a trusted friend of Caesar and rumored to be his illegitimate son. The conspirators believed that by assassinating Caesar, they could restore the Republic, preserving its institutions and traditions. On the Ides of March 15th, 44 BCE, the conspirators executed their plan. Caesar arrived at the theater of Pompey for a Senate meeting, unaware of the trap. Surrounded by senators, he was attacked and stabbed 23 times. According to historical accounts, upon seeing Brutus among his attackers, Caesar uttered the famous words, "Et tu, Brutus," "You too, Brutus," a moment symbolizing betrayal and the tragic intersection of personal loyalty and political intrigue. Caesar's assassination plunged Rome into chaos. The conspirators had miscalculated the public's reaction, believing that removing one man would restore order. Instead, Caesar's death ignited widespread outrage, riots, and civil war. Citizens mourned their leader, and his funeral became a focal point for popular mobilization. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant and friend, delivered a masterful eulogy that incited the people against the conspirators, famously reading Caesar's will and revealing his generosity to the citizens. The political vacuum left by Caesar's demise created a power struggle among his supporters and enemies, eventually leading to the rise of the Second Triumvirate, Mark Antony, Octavian, later Augustus, and Lepidus. The subsequent conflicts culminated in the final defeat of the conspirators at the battles of Philippi in 42 BCE. Caesar's vision of Rome had survived him, not as a republic, but as a foundation for the empire. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir and grandnephew, would eventually consolidate power and become the first Roman emperor, establishing the Principate and transforming the political landscape Caesar had begun to shape. In this way, Caesar's influence extended far beyond his life. His reforms, military strategies, and political innovations provided the framework for imperial Rome, which would endure for centuries.
Caesar's legacy is multifaceted. Militarily, he was a genius who combined strategy, tactics, logistics, and leadership in unprecedented ways. His campaigns in Gaul demonstrated not only his battlefield skill, but also his understanding of human psychology, propaganda, and diplomacy. Politically, he redefined the relationship between the individual and the state, showing that popular support could rival or even surpass the authority of traditional institutions. Administratively, his reforms improved governance, extended citizenship, stabilized finances, and laid the groundwork for a more centralized state. Culturally, his writings, public works, and patronage influenced literature, architecture, and public life for generations. The historical interpretations of Caesar are diverse and complex. Some view him as a ruthless dictator whose ambition destroyed the Roman Republic, while others see him as a visionary leader who recognized the Republic's dysfunction and sought to build a stronger, more efficient system of governance. Ancient historians like Suetonius and Plutarch highlighted both his virtues and vices, portraying a man of charisma, intelligence, and boldness, yet also capable of arrogance and manipulation. Modern historians often emphasize his skill in balancing ambition with pragmatism and his ability to navigate a volatile political landscape with foresight and ingenuity. Caesar's life and death also carry enduring lessons about power, leadership, and human nature. His rise demonstrates the importance of strategic vision, personal charisma, and the ability to inspire loyalty, while his assassination underscores the fragility of authority when it clashes with entrenched institutions and collective fears. The tension between innovation and tradition, centralization and liberty, personal ambition and public responsibility, exemplified in Caesar's story, remains relevant in political and social contexts even today. Leaders across the centuries have studied his life, drawing insights from his methods, successes, and failures. Beyond politics, Caesar's impact extends into culture and language. His name became a title, giving rise to terms like Caesar in Roman, Kaiser in German, and Tsar in Russian, symbolizing supreme rulership. His military campaigns are still studied in academies for their strategic brilliance. The Julian calendar transformed the way humanity measures time, a testament to his foresight. In literature and art, Caesar's life has inspired countless works, from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar to modern historical novels, films, and scholarly studies. He embodies the complex interplay of genius, ambition, and human fallibility.
In the final analysis, Julius Caesar was a man of paradoxes. He combined military ruthlessness with political ingenuity, ambition with generosity, and pragmatism with vision. His life reshaped Rome, ending the old republican order, but creating the foundations for an empire that would dominate the Mediterranean world for centuries. His assassination, rather than erasing his influence, immortalized him, symbolizing both the dangers and the allure of concentrated power. From the streets of Rome to the far reaches of Gaul and Egypt, Caesar left a legacy that continues to resonate, a testament to a man who changed history through courage, intellect, and unwavering determination. The story of Julius Caesar is not merely the tale of a conqueror, but the saga of a transformative figure whose life illuminated the possibilities and perils of human ambition. He rose from a young nobleman in a troubled republic to become the most powerful man in the world of his time. He conquered lands, won the loyalty of his soldiers, reformed the institutions of his society, and ultimately faced betrayal and death. His life, achievements, and death illustrate the delicate balance between personal power and public responsibility, ambition and morality, innovation and tradition. History remembers him not only as a man of action, but also as an enduring symbol of leadership, vision, and the complex consequences of human greatness. Julius Caesar's name, deeds, and legacy have transcended time, influencing the structure of governments, military strategy, literature, and cultural memory for more than 2 millennia. The republic he once sought to serve became an empire shaped by his vision. The man who crossed the Rubicon changed the course of history forever, leaving behind lessons that continue to resonate in political, military, and cultural realms around the world. From the battlefields of Gaul to the Senate in Rome, Caesar's life demonstrates how one individual, through intelligence, audacity, and determination, can alter the trajectory of an entire civilization. In every sense, Julius Caesar remains a figure whose impact